Hey, what is up, YouTube? What is up, Christianthology fam? We got today is abortion moral. Let's get to it.
Well, I think when it comes to feminism, something that a lot of feminists fight for is abortion rights for women.
Killing babies.
So I think I'd like to touch on that for a little bit. So a good jumping off point for each of you, what is each of your basic stance on abortion? We'll have you guys go first, then we'll have Michael respond. And starting with you, Farah, go ahead.
On a personal level, I'm pro-life. I wouldn't get an abortion, but on a macro level, I'm pro-choice.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, I have very mixed feelings and thoughts when it comes to abortion. I am generally speaking pro-choice. Do I think abortion at any stage is moral? No, not necessarily. However, I do have strong reservations about the government being able to dictate when exactly, or just deciding let's not have any pro-choice, pro-life all the way. I have very strong reservations of the government being able to dictate a law to that nature. So I have a mixed bag right now.
Jasmine.
Yeah, I think abortion is one of the hardest moral issues. It's so unique, and I think anyone who thinks it's so easy on the other side just hasn't delved into this topic enough, because there's really good arguments for both sides. I typically hold what the question is, when is that fetus or whatever you're going to call it, depending on the stage, a person? And I think the strongest argument for me is the consciousness one. So when, to me, having a baby that's alive and something in a petri dish, I don't see those two things as exactly the same, but I do think there are really good arguments about it. It's just a really hard topic.
Why would you not have an abortion for your own child, but you would permit it or even maybe recommend it for others?
Makes no sense.
Same reason I've been vegetarian my whole life, but I don't force it onto others. I have my own personal visceral reaction to certain types of behavior, such as, hunting, factory farming, and even possibly abortion. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm deducing some sort of moral imperative from that.
Well, I should hope if you
vegan? Oh man, come on, girl, you too pretty to be vegan. Damn, yeah, you too pretty to be vegan. You need to be eating some steak. Damn.
care about a bunny rabbit and you won't eat a hamburger, then certainly you would care about a human being, and it seems like that's the logical connection.
Are you stupid? How do you care about a freaking cow but not a little baby? These feminists, bro. How do you care about a little freaking cow? A cow? Then a little child that can actually speak and develop into a grown man or a grown woman.
Sure, but doesn't that then seem to be like saying, look, I would never murder my precious baby, but all you often poor black people, you can kill your babies, that's just fine?
No, because I never said I do it because I view it as murder. I said it's more of a visceral reaction.
So it's unreasonable. You just think it's yucky.
Yes. I found it yucky when you opened the doll's mouth and put a cigar in it, but I don't think that's wrong to do.
I find this disgusting.
It grossed me out when I was going to ask you to remove it.
That was Michael's
Depraved.
idea.
That was not my idea.
He was very excited to do
it. I did think it was very funny, but it was not my idea. Look, I love what you just said. It was what a beautifully honest thing you admitted. You said, I find abortion to be wrong. And
I didn't say wrong.
For you. Wrong for you.
When we say wrong, we're usually moralizing it. I just said I found it gross, and I had to look away when you open the sex doll's mouth. That doesn't mean I think it was wrong.
It's
to do
abortion
that.
boo for her.
Yes, you're saying I find abortion repulsive, and therefore I wouldn't do it, even though I can't reason as to
the
why I
process
wouldn't
grosses
do it.
me out. I find it gross to use a tampon. I don't use one.
Yeah,
I don't think
sure.
people shouldn't use
I'm
it.
with you.
I personally don't want to do it. I find it invasive. I find the process of,
Totally.
you know what I mean? Certain things to be invasive, but that doesn't mean I'm going to prescribe it for everyone or even moralize it.
What you've just articulated is something called the wisdom of repugnance, which is an idea that was elaborated on by the bioethicist Leon Kass.
Yeah, I'm still stuck on the topic. Oh my god, why is she vegan? Why are you vegan, babe? Why are you vegan? Oh man, she looks. I feel like she's nice, man. I don't know her, obviously. I feel like she could be a nice little woman, man. She could be even conservative at a point. Man, I don't know, man. I'm just stuck on her for some reason. But I think she could be great. She needs to start eating beef, chicken, so her mind could actually start working. That's all she needs to do.
About 20 years ago, he had a famous book on this. We don't write a moral treatise on every single thing. I get out of bed, should I have eggs or pancakes? So I don't know, let me write a 10-page essay. No, you just kind of You just go on your prejudices a lot of the time. And I know prejudice is a really nasty word these days, but most prejudices are right. It's just, you can't.
But sometimes they're wrong, like slavery.
Racism,
but there were
racism.
also plenty of people who recognized the moral.
But that argument doesn't pan out
And
because
there are
you
plenty
just
of
said
people
I
now.
should deduce some sort of correctness and morality from my prejudice. But if I just said I enjoy getting abortions, like I love the process, it gives me pleasure
But-
the same
but-
way getting a tattoo would, you wouldn't then say that I should
But
moralize that.
virtually no people would say that. What most women say when they support abortion is exactly what you just said, which is, well, I wouldn't do it, but I think it should be a right. And so now I think, okay, I'm glad you've said you wouldn't have an abortion and you've arrived at that through prejudice or however, I don't care how you arrive at it. But now I think at that point we have to apply reason to this, which is, okay, why do you find it repulsive? Well, because it's invasive. Well, because I don't like stirrups. Well, okay, fine, all those reasons. But at a certain point, especially, you really seem to care about living things because you don't want to eat animals either. Okay, I think there's a moral difference between a human being and a cow, but what you're recognizing is there's something monstrous. There's something morally significant
There's
about
not.
taking a
That's why I
life.
use the analogy again of you putting the cigar in the doll's mouth. It
Well,
also grossed
merely
me out.
having a sex doll is morally significant. I mean, I'm glad that she's just being used as my debate partner here to help me so it's not 3-on-1. But, if one were to use this sex doll in the way for which it was built, that would be depraved and disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, frankly, having her advertise my cigars is probably one of the most wholesome uses for the sex
Right.
doll.
So I
there is.
personally wouldn't get a tattoo. I
Mayflower
find that
cigars, by
process
the way.
very repulsive, and the idea freaks me out. And I would pay to not get a tattoo. Does that mean I'm moralizing it? And I should be, moralizing that proclivity towards not getting a tattoo and prescribe that other people don't do it.
Yeah.
Like,
I
why
think-
is abortion? Why are you assuming that I'm not getting an abortion for some moral reason?
No, I don't think you're doing it for a moral reason. I think you happily have arrived through your own natural tastes and preferences and prejudices at a correct moral conclusion. But the moral conclusion, the reason abortion's wrong is because you're killing a baby.
But you said it's a cow. Why is it different than a cow to you?
So come again?
Why is a human different than a cow?
Because human beings are rational
So is a
animals.
retarded person less of a person than a non-retarded person?
No, all people have defects. None of us, even me, none of us is perfect. But the species of human beings, the thing that separates us from the animals is that we have will and intellect. This is why we
But
don't
if you
put...
found out that like cows have it, or if you found
They
a
don't have
person,
it.
or if you have a person who, there's people who have really significant brain defects, etc.
Yeah, there are people who have all sorts of disabilities and defects.
Well,
and,
if we're
right,
just
that
going
doesn't
on
mean they're not human
rationality,
beings.
yeah,
Wait,
but
I
that's
wanna
the
say
whole
something
thing.
quickly.
Right.
Go for it.
Do you believe in contraception?
I believe it exists, but I would strongly discourage it.
Even for married couples who want to child plan?
Yeah, I think couples should be open to life.
Even though there's
I
like-
think married couples should be
Wait,
open to
even
life.
though there's an overwhelming amount of data that suggests that contraception lowers abortion rates, basically, right? If a person never gets
Yeah,
pregnant,
I think people should have more
Just don't have
babies, and
sex
once they
when you're
conceive the
not
babies, they
married.
should also not murder the babies. But I don't.
Wait, so you
Okay,
think
but-
married couples should just
Have-
every time they have sex should get pregnant, or should be aiming towards getting pregnant?
open
believe
to
it or
preg-
not, it usually doesn't work quite like that.
Doesn't
But I
work
think
like
they should
that,
have more
right?
kids. Yeah.
It doesn't work like that, man. It doesn't work like that, man. And they women, they know that it doesn't work like that, but they just want to have an argument, right?
Yeah, totally. And there also, by the way, there are, again, it's morally controversial, but there are modes of a more natural process that would be able to quite accurately
Yeah.
time a woman's
Until we're
menstrual
at the
cycle.
Okay.
point where we're getting rid of abortion, then are you then in favor of contraception?
No,
because
well,
you're saving lives?
I also reject the premise that you've just made, which is that contraception reduces abortion rates. I think there's a very easy way to cherry pick those data because you can say, well, in this very small subset of data where we give condoms to college kids or whatever, they have lower abortion rates. But broadly speaking, over the past 60 years, we've had a proliferation of contraception and we've had a proliferation of abortion. The rates
Not
have
taking
spiked
them.
and they've lowered it sometimes, but they've remained fairly high. And the reason is more fundamental than statistics, which is that we have a mentality now that sex can come without consequences. And so condoms can be very effective, and whatever women put inside themselves, and that can be very effective too. But sometimes it's not. And by accepting the mentality that sterile sex is a right, it then implies a right to kill the baby so you don't actually have to face the
Yeah.
consequences when it happens.
I think I push back on the idea that people were not having sex prior to contraception because
I
even
never
it's-
suggested that.
Okay, I thought it was suggested because when you're saying oh no, abortion rates have gone up since contraception, I'm not sure if that's true.
They were having kids before
Okay.
contraception.
And they were also getting abortions before
No. I
contraception.
mean, the other reason why it's, I think, silly to try to separate these two phenomena is they occurred basically at the same time. So you had legal abortion beginning in 1973 with Roe v. Wade, though it had been legalized in other states prior. This was, the 1960s and 1970s, the sexual revolution, when contraception became much, much, much more popular and available, and abortion did at the same time too. So it's simply a fact. As contraception became more popular, the abortion rate went up. Now you might say, well, those are disconnected phenomena. Okay, maybe they are, but they certainly occurred at the same time.
At least to my understanding, and maybe we can even search this up right now, people did have abortions or did have a high rate of abortion before even like Roe v. Wade. What would happen is that they were like more like back alley abortions, illegal abortions, such abortions that like basically put the mother's life in danger.
No, none of that's true. They were having abortions. It wasn't at a particularly high rate. The rate spiked after Roe v. Wade. And it is true sometimes women died from back alley abortions. There's a fake statistic that went around that was cooked up by the abortion industry, which said that thousands of women a year were dying of abortions just before Roe v. Wade. Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who was the head of NARAL, the Abortion Rights League, admitted they just made that statistic up out of thin air. And we can fact check it because we have the statistics from the CDC. So the year before Roe v. Wade made abortion legal nationally, do you know how many women died of back alley abortions?
I don't have a specific number from the top of my head.
39 is the number. And do you know how many women died of legal abortions? 24. And so almost the same, but you'd say, well, it's a little bit higher for the illegal abortions, except that if you look at the number of states that had legal abortion versus illegal abortion, if you control for that variability, it comes out to almost exactly the same number. And it was a very, very low number. So, that wouldn't be a recommendation of legal abortion.
To my understanding right now, if we decide to let's take a state or a county where one county has a greater amount of contraceptive access, promotes it more, teaches kids about contraceptive use versus a county that there isn't that necessarily same level of sex education, the one that has the less amount of sex education and contraceptive access would have higher amounts of abortion. Do you dispute that?
The one that has higher, did you say the one that has higher rates of sex education would have higher rates of abortion?
No, the one that has higher rates of sex education and higher rates of contraceptive use will have less abortions than the one where there is no sex ed. Basically, places that have less sex ed have higher abortions.
Well, it depends. It depends on if we're talking about a community that is strongly discourages contraception and premarital sex and abortion, that would be less likely. If we're talking about a community that has very low rates of religiosity and low rates of getting married, but also low rates of sex education, which is just kind of liberal sexual revolution teaching, then maybe you would have higher rates of abortion there. I don't dispute that at all. I mean, we live in a culture now that is broadly supportive of abortion and of contraception, including religious communities. But if you, to use my own group of religious people, if you look at Catholics compared to the rest of the country, and then if you look at traditional Catholics, guys who like the Latin Mass and smells and bells compared to regular Catholics, the rates of divorce plummet, the rates of abortion plummet, the rates of contraceptive use plummet, the rates.
Man, it seems like the closer you get to God, the better your life actually freaking gets. Thank y'all for watching, man. Love y'all.